Welcome back. I started this section by explaining cloud computing and its definition, and I talked about the following cloud service models. So we learned that cloud computing offers you infrastructure, platforms, and software. Then I talked about the Amazon Cloud Platform. You learned that Amazon has created a massive pool of infrastructure across the globe. Then they implemented Amazon Web Services to offer infrastructure, platforms, and software, right? The point is straight. AWS offers you all three service models. However, we still don't know how that magic happens. Amazon has got thousands of servers, but we do not know how we can get a server from Amazon and use it for our purpose. And that's what I want to cover in this video. I want to give you a glimpse of the infrastructure as a service model. And I want to show you how AWS offers infrastructure. How can we get it using a self-service model? So let's start. Let's assume you or your company wants to get a Linux server for some reason. The reason could be anything. You may want to deploy and test a website on a server, and you want this server for 2-3 days only until your testing is complete. You might need to install a single node Kafka on a Linux server and give it to your development team. Your team is creating a real-time streaming application that sends data to a Kafka cluster. So you need this machine for a few months. How do we go about arranging a machine for a short duration? You might want to purchase a new machine, but that option is wasting time and money, isn't it? My requirement is temporary. So more economical option is to get one server on rent. And that's what infrastructure as a service is all about. You can get a Linux server on rent from AWS Cloud, and you do not need to go anywhere or talk to anyone. AWS infrastructure is available to you as an on-demand service, and you can do a self-service of creating, using, and returning the server. The entire process is super simple. Let's do it now and see how that happens. Log into your AWS Management Console. Here it is. Now, I want to create a Linux server for my development team, right? So, look for AWS EC2 service. You can find it under the All Services Compute category. Let me click this. Great. So I now reached the Amazon EC2 service dashboard. Amazon EC2 is an abbreviated name for Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud Service. EC2 allows you to create a virtual computing environment known as EC2 instance. In simple words, they allow the creation of virtual servers. And that's what we wanted to do. I wanted to create a Linux virtual machine for my team, right? Creating an EC2 Linux VM is super simple. I'll do it in a minute. However, before you create a Linux VM, we need to get prepared for using it. Once you start a Linux VM, you would want to log into the machine and use it, right? So, before I create a VM for my team, I want to set up the access method. Accessing an EC2 Linux VM requires setting up two things: key pair and security group. What are they? Let me explain. An EC2 Linux machine does not come with a password. What does it mean? Simple. An EC2 VM does not allow you to log into the machine using a username and password. They simply do not allow password-based authentication. Why? Because passwords are not secure. Then how do we authenticate users? Well, they use public key cryptography authentication. In this type of authentication, you will generate a pair of keys. The first key is known as the public key, and the second one is the private key. AWS copies the public key to the EC2 machine, and you can download and store the private key at a secure place on your laptop. Now the EC2 server has a public key, and the user should have a private key. When you want to log in into the EC2 machine, you must provide this private key. I'll show you how to do it, nothing to worry about. But the point is straight. The AWS EC2 Linux server keeps the public key, and it allows access to all users who can prove that they have the corresponding private key. So if my team has the private key, they can access the EC2 machine. Make sense? Great. So let's create a key value pair and then I'll talk about the security groups. You can create a key pair from the EC2 service page. Look at the navigation pane and scroll down to find the key pairs menu item. Here it is. Click this item and then click the create key pair button. Give a name to your key pair. Let me name it EC2 key pair for Ohio region. Remember, the key pair is valid only for a given region. In fact, AWS services are created in a given region and used from the same. Some of the AWS services are global, others can be made multi-region, but most of them are local to a region. I'll talk more about the local, global, and multi-region AWS services in a later video. But for now, remember that you create AWS services in a region and use them in the same place. I'm currently working in the Ohio region. You can see your current region in the top right corner of your console. Make sense? Great. So I gave a name to my key pair. What is next? I'll use this key pair to connect to my EC2 VM using an SSH tool. We have two commonly used tools for doing an SSH, PuTTY and OpenSSH. PuTTY takes the key pair in the PPK file format, but OpenSSH works with the PEM file format. OpenSSH is available on Windows, Linux, as well as on Mac machines. So let me choose the PEM file format. That's all. Hit the create key pair button to download your private key. You cannot get this private key again because AWS will generate and download it only once. AWS does not keep it for future downloads. So make sure you save this private key at a safe location. Great. We are done creating a key pair. Now it's time to make a security group. You can find a link for security groups in the navigation pane. Here it is. Let me click it. Great. What is a security group? A security group is a set of firewall rules. Simple, isn't it? I already have one default security group here, but let me create a new one. Click this create button. Give a name to your security group. Let me name it EC2 security group for Ohio region. You can also type in a description of the security group. Let me type it. The next step is to select a VPC, but let me keep the default value for now. I'll talk about the VPC in a later video. Great. Scroll down and you will see two sections to define inbound and outbound rules. The inbound rule sets the type of connection requests that you want to allow to the EC2 VM. And the outbound rule tells where you can go from inside the EC2 VM. I want my team to SSH to the EC2 VM. So let me add one rule for allowing an SSH connection. Click the add rule button and you will see one row for adding a new inbound rule. The connection type is SSH. So let me select SSH. The source of the incoming connection could be anywhere, or it could be your IP address. Choosing the My IP option will automatically detect your IP address and add it to the rule. But let me remove it and select anywhere. So I want to allow SSH connections to my EC2 VM from anywhere in this world. You also have an option to define a custom range of IP addresses. But for now, let's allow it to connect from anywhere. That's all for the inbound rule. I do not want any other type of access to the EC2. So I'm not adding any further rules here. Now let's look at the outbound rule. We want to allow all types of outgoing connections to anywhere, and that's already selected here. So we are good to go on the outbound rules. That's all. We are done. Scroll down and hit the create button. Done. My security group is ready. Great. So we created a key pair and downloaded the private key in the PEM file format. We also created a security group and allowed SSH connections from anywhere. Now it is time to launch an EC2 instance. Scroll up or down in your navigation pane and look for the instance menu item. Here it is. Click this. Now you can hit the Launch Instances button. Great. The first step to create an EC2 instance is to select an AMI. AMI is an Amazon Machine Image. But what does it mean? Simple. AMI is a template that you can use to launch a new EC2 virtual machine. You can create your own AMI template to define what all pre-installed software and configurations do you want. Alternatively, you can use a pre-created AMI. AWS offers you many out-of-the-box AMIs to meet most of the requirements. You can see a lot of available AMIs shown here. The first one is Amazon Linux. You also have some Mac machine AMIs. Scroll down and you will see Red Hat, SUSE Linux, Ubuntu, and even Microsoft Windows machines. Select the marketplace and your AMI options will explode. You will see a lot of third-party software vendors selling specialized AMIs. Look at these AMI categories. You can get an AMI that is pre-loaded and pre-configured with the DevOps related tools. Similarly, you can get AMIs pre-configured for computer vision, natural language processing, and financial services. Let's come back to the quick start images. You can apply the free tier only filter, and the list will show you only those available to you for free usage. Let me select the Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Good. Now the next step is to select an instance type. What is an instance type? Simple. The instance type defines three main things: CPU, memory, and storage. And AMI defines the software stack of the machine. It defines the required operating system such as Linux or Windows. It also configures the other pre-installed software such as web server or a database software, etc. However, the instance type allows you to select a predefined combination of CPU, memory, and storage. AWS gives you more than 100 instance types, and you can choose one according to your requirement. They do not allow you to create a new instance type, and you should select one which is already available in this list. Make sense? Great. Every instance type has got a name. In my case, I have selected the T2 micro type. This one is available under the free tier, so I don't have to pay anything for using it. But remember, it is not 100% free. Hover your mouse cursor over this green area and you will get some more details. So, it is free for up to 750 hours each month. What does it mean? You can run an EC2 VM using T2 micro type for 750 hours every month. I haven't consumed my 750 hours yet, so I can still run it for free. Great. So we selected an instance type. Now we are ready to go to the review and launch button. Let me click it. Let's review what do we have. I selected Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Then I selected the T2 micro type. This type of machine comes with one virtual CPU core, 1 GB RAM, and some EBS storage. The EBS storage is an abbreviation of Elastic Block Storage. I'll cover it later, but for now, just take it as some kind of disk storage. The next option is the security group. The launch wizard is offering to create a new security group automatically. I don't want that because I have already defined a security group, right? Let me edit this setting. Select an existing security group and choose the one that we created earlier. Now click this button to go back to the review and launch. Great. We are done selecting a security group. If you want, you can look at the instance details, but let me skip it for now. You can also check the storage details. The default option should give you 8 GB of disk storage. You can increase the storage using the edit storage link, but 8 GB is more than enough for this example. So let me go ahead and hit the launch button. Great. Now the AWS is asking you to select a key pair. We already created a key pair and that's automatically picked up here. So we are good. We also need to acknowledge that I have already downloaded the private key of this key pair. Now let me launch the VM. Great, we got the success message. My VM instance is now launching. It may take a couple of minutes, but let me click the View Instances button at the bottom right corner. Great, I am back to my EC2 instances page. This is where I started, and now I can see one VM instance in the running state. So my Linux VM is already running. What is next? How do I connect to this VM? Let's do it. But before trying to connect to your VM, make sure it has passed the status check. Look at this status check column. It must show you n of n checks passed. You can refresh your page if you still don't see that status. Mine is already passed 2 of 2 checks. Now I can connect to the VM. Connecting to your remote Linux machine has got many ways. AWS also gives you some easy options. Let me show you. Select your VM instance by clicking this checkbox. Now you can see the connect button at the top is enabled. Click this. AWS will show you 3 methods: EC2 Instance Connect, Session Manager, and SSH Client. The EC2 Instance Connect offers you to connect to the EC2 VM without knowing the private key. Your credentials and your access permissions are validated against your IAM user account. You can use it from the browser itself. Let me show you. Click this connect button, and your browser will open a new SSH terminal. Here it is. I am logged into the remote machine. My username is EC2 user, and that's a default user for the Amazon Linux 2 AMI. But where is this user coming from? I mean, who created this user? I told you already. AMI is the template that defines all the pre-installed software and configuration. This default username was specified in the AMI. As of now, you have only one user account in the Linux VM. Remember, the AWS IAM user is different. You cannot log into the Linux machine using the IAM user. The IAM user is for the AWS services, such as creating EC2 VM. But once your VM is there, you can log into the VM using the Linux user. Similarly, you can use an IAM user to create a database. But accessing a database will require you to have a DB user. Make sense? So I cannot log into this VM using my username Prashant, because Prashant does not exist in the Linux VM. However, I can create a new user for this Linux machine, but that will be a separate video. But you can also refer to the documentation. Here is the direct link to the documentation that explains adding new users to your Linux VM. Great. Let me close this window and come back to the connect page. So you learned about the EC2 Instance Connect. This tool allows my team to connect to an EC2 instance even if I don't share my private key file with the team. And that's the most critical feature of the Instance Connect tool. This tool is not limited to the browser connections only. It can be configured to work with many other remote connection methods. What does it mean? Simple. You can use EC2 Instance Connect from the browser. I already showed it here. You can also configure this tool to work with any other command line tool such as OpenSSH or PuTTY. Great. Now let's look at the SSH Client tab. If you are on Linux or Mac machine, you can simply start a terminal and use the SSH command to connect to your remote machine. The SSH command is already given here. But if you are on Windows, then I recommend installing and using Git Bash. Git Bash gives you an easy way to run some Linux commands on Windows machine. I have it installed on my machine. Let me show you. Start Git Bash and paste the SSH command. This command will not work because it assumes that the EC2 key pair for ohioregion.pem is available in the current directory. But that's not correct. So let me change it to the absolute path of the PEM file. That's all. It should work now. Hit the enter key to connect to the remote host. For the first time, you may get a warning and a question to confirm if you really want to access the remote host. Type yes and press the enter key. Great, that's all. I'm inside the remote machine. Let me exit. Come back to your instance page. Here we are. I'm done using and working with this VM and I do not need it anymore. My team is also done using it. I do not need this VM for doing anything. So now I want to terminate it. Select the VM instance and expand this instance state button. You will see an item to terminate the VM instance. Just do it. Your instance state will change to shutdown and you will see it terminated in few minutes. Once your instance state is terminated, your billing is stopped. So the point is straight. AWS allows you to create and launch EC2 VM instances and terminate them when you do not need them. This approach offers you to manage your cost, and the idea is known as pay-per-use. So you will be paying only for the duration of using AWS services. Great, that's all for this video. See you again. Keep learning and keep growing.